This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. This show is going to be a little different from the ones I usually do. Usually we have discussions about ways you can improve yourself, gain more self-awareness, uncover those subconscious behaviors that keep you small, and prevent you from living what I like to call your dream life. Those are all about the inner you. But today, I'd like to bring your focus to the outer you. The truth is, we don't live in a vacuum. There's a whole world out there, from my perspective, is a lot more topsy-turvy than it's been through most of my lifetime. We see so many horrible things going on, from the war in Ukraine, gun violence, homelessness, the attack on women's rights, inflation, hunger, climate change. And the question always comes up, is there anything I can do about it? A lot of the time we have a tendency to stick our heads in the sand and tell ourselves that someone else will take care of things. But part of your discovering your inner power is the idea that you can be the agent of change. You can be the one to make a difference in the world. If you're doing that already, I congratulate you. If not, you may want or need some encouragement. And for that, I'm bringing on my special guest, Chad Cooper. Chad has made it his mission to be a change maker for the good of the world. It would take me a whole show to list all of his accomplishments. Besides his high-performance coaching practice, Chad is the founder of the Chad E. Cooper Foundation, runs charitable programs in Guatemala and other places around the world, and wrote the best-selling book, Time Isn't the Problem: 4 Strategies to Turn Stress into Success. Welcome back to Dream Power Radio, Chad.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. One point of correction. We wrote the Time Isn't the Problem. You were a pivotal piece in making it digestible to people. So I wanted to start off saying thank you for your contributions.
You're quite welcome for that. Actually, I was an editor, but it was all of your content that made it the powerful book that it is. I just helped organize it a little bit. But
organize it a little bit more than a bit and made it intelligible so that the content was digestible. But yes, thank you. It's been a wonderful contribution to allow me to be able to serve that message to anyone that's interested in it.
Which brings me to this, Chad. You started your professional life in IT, in the IT world, made a lot of money there, then turned to coaching, made a lot of money there. You could have retired and spent your time on your own private island or traveling endlessly around the world or doing anything you wanted just for yourself. But for you, it was always about service to others. So why is that so important to you?
Well, thank you for the question, Debbie. And I think as a society today, we are getting trapped into conversations that are asking the wrong question. And it is incumbent upon us to have recognition and awareness of that, and then through kindness, redirect that question and say, I'm not interested in this conversation. I'm interested in the one that we're not having. And I just came back from a men's retreat, faith-based men's retreat in Estes Park, Colorado, which is absolutely gorgeous. And the gentleman that was kind enough to host his home has and literally not selling it short, $1 billion view overlooking the Rocky Mountain National Park. I mean, it's just, it is the postcard and going, my Lord, this is your back window and back porch. And in that, to answer your question, what the initial question of bringing these men together, and I'm a big firm believer of men need time breaking bread with men, women need time breaking bread with women, families need time together, couples need time together without the children. That's, by the way, is the difference between a trip and a vacation. A trip is with children, a vacation is without, okay? But the conversation really began, Debbie, with, where did your walk in faith begin? And all of these men had talked about, the path, and that they didn't really get there until later in life. And I said, mine is actually always been a walk in faith, but it has not been from the conversation as many people, oh, he's just, designed, or he's just led to be a servant. But quite the opposite. I woke up one of the mornings, and the conversations really kind of go like this: is, we have many ways that we can talk to that higher presence, whatever we may call that. And I hope that it isn't, Lord, if it is your will, that Bentley in this particular color, if it's your will, would be really nice in my driveway. Probably not when the universe is going to answer. Maybe it is, right? But mine is more, I woke up and I was told, I have built you, I have made your path to serve the people in Guatemala and build houses for women and children, to have part of my foundation where we go into disaster recovery zones and we help with PTSD. We help with the emotional trauma. We don't try to compete with Red Cross or UNICEF for food, water, and shelter. We go in and we do music and art to help them emote, to help them be able to express the tragedy and the trauma that they experienced. And then I work with the oldest indigenous tribes around the world, one of which have been adopted into the Waitaha nation in New Zealand, and now am a family member to that tribe. Now, I give you this long explanation because the message when I woke up was, I've given you all of these things because this is what I'm directing you to do, is to go and serve the people of Ukraine. Now, my answer is usually, please don't ask me to do that. I have enough on my plate. I don't want to go there. I have my wife is on long-term disability, very ill, very sick, and that's enough on top of things. And now you're telling me you want me to go do this. And the reason I say that we need to change the conversation is because as a society, we've gone from the we and into a culture of me. Now, I have every reason, every excuse to say, I'm busy enough. I don't have the desire to serve the we. But that's not really what we were designed in directed to do. And the most successful financial advisor in all of history is a man by the name of Ray Dalio, which most people have never heard of. And he wrote a book, Principles of the Changing World Order, which is extremely data heavy, extremely boring for most people. But he said there's 8 red flags to the indications of an empire collapsing. And one of those is that we move from the collective we and into the individual me. And so it begins by us challenging and asking the question, am I, what I'm doing, more about serving me, or is it about serving me and we? And we need to be aware that we need to change that conversation if we're going to change all of the challenges that we're facing right now, which is not an argument of, is it real or is it an illusion? It's real. What's going on is a real, unique time in our society, and that is a civilization is on the verge of collapsing. Now, that can take 25 years, 75 years, but make no mistake, that's where it's going because of our choices, being self-serving versus servant leading. Now, as somebody who is a host on a show, that was a terribly long answer, and I apologize.
But it's a very important answer because you're right. We have been focused on me. What can I do for me? And changing that conversation, how do you get people to change that conversation?
Yeah, I can look at my journey and my walk, and it is the reason I was giving the example of waking up and being told that, I have conversations with God. It's not a one-way text of help me, and it isn't oh Lord, where are you going to direct me? It's, this is where you need to be, and I kick and scream, and for many times it was, okay, finally a baseball bat across the legs and knock. Okay, now do I have your attention? Yes. Okay, I relent, right? And I said, I don't want to do that. And the response is, I'm not asking. Our spirit, our consciousness is connected to a higher being. And so many of us are consciously going, la, 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 I can't hear you, I can't hear you. But it is ceaseless. And we are choosing to tune it out. But guess what? It's not going, you can keep changing the channel, it's still there, right? So it begins by recognizing how is that being communicated to us? And what is it that we are called to do? And so often, Debbie, it is understanding the difference between our innate gifts, the things that we were born with, the specific reason why we were designed with all of our quirks, all of our greatness, all of our detriments that are unique, like a fingerprint, and our learned talents, the things that we've learned from school, from our parents, from our society, our community, and being able to interweave them. But often we focus on this, well, I got to pay the mortgage. Well, I got to start saving for college tuition for my children. Well, I got to save enough money for that next vehicle in the right neighborhood and the right amount of money in the bank account. And we neglect our gifts and talents, the purpose of why we're here. And so it begins with just getting small, getting quiet and asking, what would you have me do? What is my community? And it begins with, what does my family need? And then we can move it out. But often we look at, I got to create this huge impact. I got to go out and, I got to serve the Ukraine. Just start with serving yourself and serving your family. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And when you tackle that, then you can maybe work on a little something bigger. But I think it begins with accepting, as a society, we have shunned understanding that we need to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
That is very important. But another part about being of service to other people other than yourselves is there's actually a little bit of a selfish component to it, because it actually does make you feel better. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the research is pretty conclusive already that social media has a clear result in mental health issues, not in the affirming, but in depression and sadness. And so when it means that we need to begin with ourselves is I treat social media like a surgeon, a surgical precision. Get in, get what you need, and get out. Because the longer that you're in there, the higher the odds of infection, the higher of the odds of complication, the higher the risk. Get in, get out. But we find, because we are a world today with discretionary income and with playtime, when we look at the term teenager, that didn't even exist until post-World War II. It's a new term, relatively. So we have all this time on our hands, and the question is, what are you doing with it? So when issues come up about victim and villain, which role are you playing? Because I choose to go, I don't want to take up the script for either of those roles. And so when we do that, we have to take responsibility to say, how am I starting my day? So if we want to see a better world, it begins each and every day with the responsibility of saying, how are you setting that stage? If you're going to go on stage and give a performance, you practice, you learn the script. And the question is what script are you picking up? Part of my daily practice, one prayer that it begins with every day is, may I begin with peace, and may peace begin with me. That simple recognition, that simple intentional decision affects everything that I do for the day. So if I pick up the phone and I'm calling an airline, I'm calling to be served. That's pretty clear. I'm calling to be served. And what do we have happen, Debbie? If we don't set our stage in the morning, meditation, kindness, gratitude, journaling script, whatever it is, it might consist of a number of things. We get on, and you get somebody who doesn't care about their job, who hates the job that they have, expects that the person's going to be nasty, and probably isn't there really to serve you. And so what do? We go, I'm here to be served. Damn it, you better serve me. And then we compromise our integrity instead of recognizing, I called to be served, but what I realize is I have an opportunity to be a servant, to exhibit kindness and patience and gentleness. And maybe, hey, I'm not going to get anywhere with this person. Let me hang up and call back and maybe try somebody else. But we're so impatient today. We are so doing the opposite of what we should be doing, that we fail to even set the stage early to say, I get to choose. No matter what I decide to do, who do I want to be, regardless of what it is that I'm doing?
And
so I think that's where it begins.
Yeah, and it's also a realization that you do have the power within you to determine how you want to live your life. And on that note, we're going to take a short break where you're speaking about being of service with Chad Cooper, and we'll be right back. If you're not pleased with the trajectory of your life, the time to begin your own personal transformation is now, and your dreams can help pave the way. How? By tapping into your unvoiced confidence. What is unvoiced confidence, you say? It's the acceptance of your abilities and qualities. It's a state of mind coming from liking and even loving yourself, and feeling free to say or do anything you want without concern for the judgment of others. You were born confident, but may have had it chipped away little by the negative self-beliefs you've picked up over the years. If you're looking for the heightened energy, clarity of thought, and the feeling of being more alive that comes from self-confidence, you can rediscover it by paying attention to your dreams. Need some help doing this? Go to my website, thedreamcoach.net, and sign up for my complimentary dream discovery session. I can help show you how your dreams can help you return to the confident person you were always meant to be. Again, go to thedreamcoach.net. thedreamcoach.net.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're talking about being in service to ourselves, our community, and the world with Chad Cooper. And Chad, right before the break, I guess I interrupted you in the middle of a thought, so you want to continue on?
Well, I wanted to answer that with being of service to others begins with taking responsibility for setting ourselves up in stepping off on the right foot. And that means being strategic about our time on social media because we know that it's a toxic environment. But let's say that we are depressed. Let's say that we're unhappy. Let's say that we are screaming for, love me, love me. Why won't somebody just love me so that I can go out and love others? We need to, as I said before, we need to recognize we need to change the question. So how do we serve others when we're so focused on my needs aren't being met, right? We have to recognize we're living in a toxic world, Debbie. And that means if you are depressed, if you're sad, if you're angry, if you are feeling like a victim, the fastest way out is go serve others, which seems like, dude, you don't get it. That's the last thing I have the time for. But in order for us to get over ourselves, we have to focus on something else. And so one of the results when I take missionaries down to Guatemala to build houses for widowed women with children is that inevitably they will go, these people have nothing, Debbie. How is it that they seem to be happier? And my answer is, they are. They're like, how? They have nothing. I said, because they make the rules easy to win. See, if they have a meal, they're winning. We do not have, for the vast majority of Americans, we do not have a shortage of food, right? We complain that it's not the kind of food that we want, but we're not starving on food. We are starving spiritually. And the reason for that is we've made the rules so hard to win that it's creating suffering in our lives, right? Well, I can't be happy because Debbie just got she's got 3 cameras on the back of her phone and I've only got 2. Really? Right? Well, you've got X many pixels and I only have this. We make the rules so hard to win. See, comparison is the thief of joy. So if you want to go compare, go serve others that are less fortunate and you'll realize how blessed and fortunate you are. We've moved to a place of entitlement rather than a place of appreciation and gratitude. And so when I took folks down to New Zealand to spend time with the Waitaha, it was a group of broken women, and they were going around saying, this is such a magical place. This is such a spiritual place. It's such a special place that one of the elders finally took his talking stick, a toko and slammed it down. He said, no, this is what normal is. You live in such a toxic world, you don't even recognize normal. And so we need to recognize that we live in a toxic world, and we have to take responsibility to choose when to step out of that, recenter ourselves, and then to go in and serve that environment to clean it up.
That is such a powerfully true statement. And one thing I just want to add is that if you don't do anything else, you can adopt a practice of gratitude and just say, greet the morning every day and write down or say 5 things that you're grateful for. It totally changes your mindset and gets you into that way of being so that you can be more open to other people.
We need to realize it's a choice. And Jack London said, the proper function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days trying to prolong them. I shall use my time wisely. And so we need to recognize that if we sacrifice our integrity and get angry when we're insulted by another person, we're actually doing our enemy a great favor by causing harm to ourselves in a way that our enemy never could do harm to us. And so we need to realize it's our choices. It's what's going on here and here that's being severed. And to choose kindness, patience, to give the people the very thing that we crave the most. Because it's not something that you receive. We need to recognize it's something that we generate. Doing love is not a doingness, it's a beingness. So we have to choose when we are met with hostility to respond with kindness. And that takes courage for us to do. That's a brave act.
It does, especially when the person on the other end probably maybe has never been spoken to in that way before, just never has realized that there is another way of being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a number of tragedies. You know, we just saw one in Texas. And I don't need to argue the right or wrong of gun laws to say we can improve it. But it's a symptom of something that is a root. And the root is we have a society of hatred and a lack of love. And so we can take away that weapon. We will find a pencil to use as a weapon because the root of it is moral decay. The root of it is a lack of love and an obsession with hatred, an obsession with separation. I'm this, you're that. And what we need to realize is it's not an either or, it's a yes and. So when people look at me, what do they see? White privilege. Let's just bring out what the obvious elephant in the room is. Yeah, I have white privilege, Debbie. Don't deny it. But I also have American privilege. I also have first world privilege. And so there are 2 out of 3 things that we have. And the question is do we want to talk about the 2 things that unite us or the one thing that separates us? Because what you see that separates us is you also don't understand. I also have African American heritage genetically in my body. And my father-in-law was one of 16 Native American children born and raised to pick cotton in Texas. So in terms of the right to claim victim, oh man, I have every right to claim that banner, and I don't. What I claim is the one of love and patience and kindness, and to dissolve that anger and hatred and instead say that's an explanation. It's not an excuse. So we can use that as an excuse, and it will prevent us from serving other people. It's a choice.
It always does come down to a choice. I don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to get into what I would call the practical aspects. Let's say you do want to do something in your community, let's say, starting small, just start in the community. And the question arises or the statement arises, I just don't have the time. Well, one of the things I learned from working on your book was the whole concept of time management. So could you speak a bit about how we can create time when we feel time isn't there?
Absolutely. Great question. And thank you. Because as you know, the thing I say, the one great equalizer is time. We are all born with 168 hours a week. No matter how much money you have, no matter where you were born, no matter your economic situation, we are all given 168 hours a week. No more, no less. You, me, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey cannot buy one more hour. So it is truly the great equalizer. And it is indicative different to your background or your excuses. The question is what are you going to do with that time? And so if you want to begin by saying, oh, I want to serve others, but I don't have time, then get ahead of it and look and just simply start blocking it on your calendar, whether that's 15 minutes. If you want to begin meditation, start with 3 minutes, 5 minutes. But we're like, oh, I got to put an hour. No, just start small. It begins with small acts, but it begins by blocking the time on our calendar, choosing to make it real. And so that may be 3 months from now, Debbie, that you say, I'm going to start. Yes, and it's 3 months from now, 3 weeks from now, 3 hours from now. Just decide and block the time, because otherwise you're never going to get there. It's always when I have time. Well, yeah, I get that. So choose down the road to block it and begin.
Yeah, and it always ends up being the choice, because you have the power to make that choice.
And the language that we use to finish that is incredibly important. It's not your strength that holds you to your purpose. It's the strength of the purpose itself. So don't put some boring, limp language in the subject line. Put making a difference in the world, putting smiles on people's faces, helping one person through the door. You have to tie the purpose in the subject line, or otherwise it looks like work. So we have to find that purpose and attach it in order to compel us to find the opportunity rather than the chore.
Mm-hmm. That is so important. We are almost at the end of our time here. Is there a final thought you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I would say, if nothing else, we are pessimistic, we are critical, we are skeptical of others in the world. And if you think that others are setting you up, yeah, they probably are. They're setting you up for something great. So I would invite you in your calendar to start by putting affirmations and inspiration in your calendar, by creating appointments that start every day repeatedly, to start changing what you focus on. Every day I have probably 20 quotes and affirmations. And the first one in that is, may I begin with peace, and may peace begin with me. So what are those things that help you redirect your focus on what's wrong is available and so is what's right? I'm going to focus on what's right. But I'm just not that smart. I'm just not that kind. I have to set that up intentionally, because I'm as vulnerable as anybody else. So I choose to flood myself with goodness, because I'm being bombarded with the toxic as well. You got to outnumber it. That's how we win.
And that's how the first step to making a change happens. Well, Chad, how can people find out more about you and your work?
Real easy. Thanks, Debbie. They can just go to ChadECooper.com. E is an echo, ChadECooper.com, and then /foundation if they want to know about the foundation. But they can go there and start finding other ways that they can begin changing this trend for the better. And that begins with changing the trend for themselves. So I'm more than happy. I've got 2 spots open right now that if they want some one-on-one help that is available. I have a membership course that I make available for free. So just go to ChadECooper.com. There's a multitude of resources that they can begin making that courageous choice to say, today's a new chapter.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today.
Thank you.
We've been speaking about the benefits of service with Chad Cooper. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio.